So I was working on part 2 of my series, Canadian Politics, A Narrative Circus, where I was going to dive deeper into immigration, Pierre Poilievre, and a few other topics. But something notable has happened since Trump's inauguration. If you remember from my previous video, despite low approval ratings for all federal leaders, conservatives were poised to win. And this still holds true. The Conservative Party still has a sizable lead. However, multiple polling data since then shows a gradual shift in voter intention. In this video, I want to look into some of Trump's claims and their validity, and then look at how the Liberal Party and the Conservative Party are responding to these claims. Claim number 1. America subsidizes Canada. Trump has thrown out various dollar figures that America loses to Canada, such as over 100 billion, 200 billion, and so on. In large, he is referring to 1. The trade deficit, and 2. Defense spendings for NATO. Let's first look into the trade deficit. A trade deficit occurs when a country buys more than it sells to another country. It does not represent a subsidy. A subsidy is where an entity receives monetary benefits from another entity. America simply buys more than it sells to Canada. For it to be a subsidy, America would have to invest into Canada outside of the trades. America does not do this. Again, America simply buys more than it sells to Canada. Why do they do this though? Are they being nice? Is that a form of subsidy? Are they buying from us instead of another seller? This is not true either. For example, Canada produces 32% of the world's potash supply, and America buys 90% of that supply. Potash's primary use is for making fertilizer. In other words, currently as it stands, 80% of American agriculture is hamstrung on a Canadian product, as 80% of their potash supply comes from Canada. Remember, we have a trade agreement, we sell it at a discount. Canada cannot be an American subsidy if their agriculture sector requires a Canadian-made product for its survival. Another example is the recent California wildfire. Why were Canadian water bombers being used to put out fires in America? Canadians providing aid to America is not a new concept either. After 9/11, planes were diverted to Canada to help America deal with the issue at hand. Small communities, such as the one in Gander, Newfoundland, were suddenly responsible for housing and feeding almost 7,000 people. Honestly, it's beginning to sound like we are the ones subsidizing Americans. America is also the biggest purchaser of Canada's energies. In 2022, half of their petroleum imports came from Canada. Again, not because they wanted to, but because we sell it at a discount. We have trade agreements, our supply chains are interconnected, our industries developed alongside each other, naturally leading to a partnership of sort. And that's what it is, a partnership, not a subsidy. Claim number 2. Canada allows vast number of undocumented immigrants and fentanyl to come in. An unsecure border was actually the main reason for Trump's 25% tariffs. Do the facts support this though? Well, according to America's own federal stats, of the almost 22,000 pounds of fentanyl seized in 2024, only 43 pounds came from Canada. Canada is not responsible for the 99.8% of fentanyl that enters America, as far as their own stats go. But what about the undocumented immigrants? Well, according to the US Border Patrol stats, since October 2020 to the end of 2024, there were approximately 10.4 million illegal immigrants to enter America. Of that number, less than 150,000 of them were originally Canadian citizens. That's less than 2% of the total number. And according to the same stat, the Mexican border was the point of entry for 81.3% of these 10.4 million illegal immigrants, the remainder coming from sea, air, or the Canadian border. The Canadian border barely accounts for 5% or so. The website for this actually has an interactive map that you can check out for yourself. So this border stuff is also nonsense. Canada is not responsible for America's fentanyl crisis, nor are we flooding their nation with undocumented immigrants. I think this is where the fear of Canadians comes from. These were false pretenses, but good enough excuses by Trump. Even after agreeing to a 30-day pause, he walked back on the 30-day pause and reenacted them just a week later. His use of language such as annexing, absorbing, economic force are very scary because at the end of the day, America is the most powerful nation in the world and Trump is a willing liar. If he can falsely paint a trade deficit as a subsidy, what else can he lie about? It seems Trump wants Canadian resources and will attempt to punish Canada with economic forces when possible. Remember, this is not speculation. He said he would use economic force to annex Canada and then tariff our goods. This is as obvious as it gets. This is not hypothetical. So let's talk about how this fear of Trump affects Canadian politics. I think the Liberal Party image has evolved. Since Trudeau has stepped down, the anti-Trudeau messaging from Pierre Poilievre and the Conservative Party are just not landing as they used to. Furthermore, Mark Carney has received multiple high-profile endorsements lately and has made it clear he is running for a Liberal nomination. I believe Canadians see in Carney a strong financial leader, someone who can weather this financial storm and stand up to Trump. And there is good reason to believe this. There is no denying Carney's financial acumen. He was the governor of Bank of Canada during the 2008 recession, and no Canadian banks went under, unlike America where banks had to be bailed out. As a matter of fact, Mark Carney has received universal praise for his work as the governor of Bank of Canada. He was so good at his job that he was appointed the governor of Bank of UK, the first non-Briton to do so. So not only does he have a strong resume when it comes to understanding the economy, he also has the case study of 2008 recession as his proof of his prowess. As a matter of fact, according to a very recent poll by Palace Data, should Mark Carney be the Liberal nomination, 39% of Canadians would actually vote Liberal. And according to another poll, 40% of Canadian respondents actually said they would prefer Mark Carney to deal with Trump rather than Pierre Poilievre, who only got 26%. I don't want to talk too much about Mr. Mark Carney in this video, as I will make a video about him, as I will for all the candidates like Pierre Poilievre and Chrystia Freeland. I just wanted to quickly touch on him here, that he is inspiring something in Canadians. They seem to think he is qualified to negotiate with Trump. On the Conservative side though, I believe they have suffered from associating themselves too closely to Trump's own MAGA in the past. They make use of similar language such as anti-woke and invoke similar ideas, these ideas of a broken nation, broken borders, all similar tactics to Trump himself. I believe at an individual level, a growing disgust for Trump might have caused a rift in Pierre Poilievre and his supporters, even if they don't mean to. It also doesn't help that Elon Musk, a person closely tied to Trump, has been very aggressive with his endorsement of Poilievre. Further, to make the rift even larger, when the tariffs were first introduced, Liberal leaders like Carney were quick to make a stand against the tariffs and focus on Donald Trump, while Conservative leaders chose to continue attacking the Liberal leadership and focus on issues such as fentanyl, even going so far as to say that they would put a stop on the fentanyl kingpin. Canadians in February of 2025 simply do not care about this. They care about the tariffs. They care about Donald Trump, more specifically how to protect themselves from Trump. I believe this has caused a rift between liberal-leaning people who had grown tired of Trudeau and as a result were willing to vote Conservative. Carney's appeal as the expert penny pincher seems to be perfect for filling that rift and bringing those voters back. Or at least that's what I suspect is happening. Of course, as more polls come out, we will see how this shapes out.